You see it every day, on the street corners, around campus, in the coffee shops, at work, among many others. It's the place where we put everything that we do every day. We can read about world events, informative articles, get opinions on local restaurants and movies, read the comics, and even play trivia or do puzzles. What am I talking about? The newspaper. It's been around for many years, and although we see it every day, do we really know where it came from and how it got to be the way that it is? Beginning in the 17th century, the newspaper came to be as we know it today. Although a few modifications have been made since, including the introduction of the digital newspaper to the web, it still holds the relatively same importance and basic structure that it did all those years ago. During the 1600s in Europe, periodicals were printed and spread in correlation to the introduction of the printing press. Prior to the newspaper, around the year 59 BC, government announcement bulletins were spread throughout the Roman Empire. Even before that, writing and record-keeping of the local events were written in clay or on rock or early ancient forms of paper known as papyrus. So how did we get from the early form of record-keeping on papyrus to the newspaper we have today? Let's take a look.
In pondering the evolution of the newspaper, many of us can appreciate it as the oldest form of spreading word in the United States. Before news broadcasts played every few hours on our TV, and even before radio was invented, the 13 colonies in the United States were publishing their own newspapers. Documented as early as 1690, Benjamin Harris published Public Occurrences, both foreign and domestic. Though it was immediately suppressed by colonial officials, it was our nation's first newspaper. We can acknowledge that at this time in history, newspapers weren't all written by hand. They were mass-produced with the use of a printing press. This thought leads us all the way back to the spread of the Gutenberg printing press during the mid-1400s to the early 1500s. The printing press completely revolutionized the way word was spread by increasing access to information to virtually everyone. In its infancy, it was used to create copies of the Bible. This significantly extended access to reading material to the populace due to cheaper production costs. Additionally, the printing press allowed for the creation of a new branch of media, coincidentally named the press. Publishing current news and events was now a reality, as text could be published more rapidly than ever before. What type and quantity of paper had to have been available, though, to supply this demand for information? The oldest known paper was invented by the Chinese in the 2nd century BC. However, this type of paper is not what we would consider paper in our modern understanding of the word. What we would now recognize as paper did not reach Europe until much later. Conveniently, that paper reached Germany by about 1400, not too long before the widespread use of the printing press. Like the printing press altered the production of written material, the paper mill altered the production of paper. The paper mill is a water-powered machine that pounds the pulp of paper with trip hammers, a great improvement over manual pounding with hand pestles. This meant a significant increase in the supply of paper was available, a necessary but often overlooked requirement for the printing press to have been successful. Earlier products, like parchment, and the methods by which they were created, simply would not have sustained a sufficient supply for the printing press.
Parchment is made from a process of turning animal skin into writing material over a matter of a couple days. One would soak, dehair, and stretch the hide to a suitable size and thickness. The hide is then rubbed on both sides until smooth, so that both sides could be used. Later methods for making parchment vary little from the original daily process described. However, improved techniques in Turkey during the 2nd century greatly increased the durability of the paper, creating a sturdier and longer-lasting material. Parchment has been used since the Paleolithic era of mankind, but didn't come into popular use until the Middle Ages as the knowledge from Turkey spread. Parchment not a preferred writing material because of the cost and time needed to make it, but its payoff was being more durable and longer lasting than most other writing materials at that time. Parchment is predominantly used for important documents like religious text, laws, and imperial decrees. Because of its durability, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are both written on parchment. The importance of parchment extended from the Middle Ages through the Age of Enlightenment into the 1700s. Another reason parchment became so popular during the Middle Ages was due to the fact that Egypt placed an embargo on a cheaper form of writing paper, papyrus. This brought about a golden age of using parchment. Once the printing press and the cheaper forms of paper came into place for the public use, parchment became more of a ceremonial writing form. The term parchment is still used by manufacturers today, but instead of animal skins, they have moved to the use of fir trees, making a thicker and more porous form of paper.
Before humans developed a canvas-like parchment to write on, they used what was available to them: rock. Cave drawings and other forms of rock art are some of humanity's oldest forms of communication. Rock and the materials to make paint, such as local flora, ground-up minerals, and animal materials, were easy for early humans to find. As a result, rock art can be found on all the continents humans inhabit and span a range of time periods. The reasons for cave drawings and other rock art are unclear. Archaeologists have made any number of suggestions, but not enough evidence exists to support any of them. Some think that the cave drawings were used as a form of visual storytelling, while others think that they were part of religious ceremonies intended to improve hunting. Lascaux is likely the world's most famous set of cave paintings, and it exemplifies much of what can be found in other locations. The paintings are located on the walls and ceiling of the cave, and they depict scenes of local fauna and hunting. The paintings are quite sophisticated, which is likely because they aren't that old, relatively speaking. They are thought to have been painted about 20,000 years ago, which makes them nowhere near the oldest example of rock art. If you travel to Australia, you can visit what are thought to be the oldest figurative drawings, the Bradshaw paintings. There is no conclusive time period for when the Bradshaw paintings were created, but it is known that humans first moved to the surrounding region approximately 60,000 years ago. Archaeologists hypothesize that the Bradshaw paintings were created not long after. Africa is where humankind originated, so there is a high likelihood that even older art has yet to be discovered. Strong evidence of this art's existence comes as a piece of ochre carved with a geometric pattern that was discovered in the Blombus Caves on the southern Cape Coast. This piece of ochre is 77 to 100,000 years old. Rock is not the only ancient material available to humanity. Some materials, like the papyrus plant, predate human existence.
Prior to the use of parchment, but after the height of cave drawings, Egyptians developed the writing material known as papyrus as early as 2000 BC. Originally developed by layering and pressing multiple strands of the papyrus plant, a plant that abundantly grows on the banks of the Nile River, Egyptians had successfully developed the first durable writing material. Scientifically known as Cyprus papyrus, this plant originated in North Africa and can be described as a smooth-stemmed reed that can grow up to 15 feet in height and 2.3 inches in diameter. This plant was used throughout ancient Egyptian society, as it was the source of several other products at the time, such as rope, cloth, shoes, and even boats. And the papyrus remains important today, as many African cultures still use this plant. Looking even further into the history of the papyrus plant, it is believed that the first appearance of this plant on Earth dates back to the Cretaceous period, approximately 115 million years ago. It is amazing to think that a plant that first appeared over 100 million years before humans would eventually lead to a writing material that dramatically evolved human communication.
As we can see, the desire and the need for humans to record their life events has been evident throughout all of human history. From the most basic form of ancient cave paintings, to the development of the first form of paper, papyrus, parchment, and finally the printing press, which allowed for mass distribution of written information utilizing the modern form of paper that could be considered a descendant of papyrus. As human beings, we attempt to gain some type of understanding in life. This includes learning and recording about what happens every day, specifically to major events around the world. The newspaper that we know and love today has had a long journey from its archaic forms to become as we know and see all around the world every day.